Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. A few days back, myself and a handful of other creators had the chance to sit down with some of the higher up devs at Call of Duty and behind Warzone. And in this meeting, we got to ask a lot of questions about the state of Warzone, the future of Warzone, all things Warzone, right? And one of the things that came up was matchmaking. Not necessarily to do with skill-based matchmaking, which is probably the first thing that a lot of players thought of when I said that, but more so options for matchmaking, which could drastically change the gameplay experience for a lot of players in COD. And today I wanted to break down what sort of stemmed from that and what we could expect for the future. So as we cover it all, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, every single day I got you covered with all things going on in COD. News, updates, loadouts, tips, you'll find it all right here. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. And also right now, my friends over at G Fuel have bumped code WHosImmortal up to 30% off for your entire orders. So if you want to grab a new tub, a shaker cup, a starter pack, anything at all from the G Fuel site, code WHosImmortal has you covered. So the first thing I want to focus on when it comes to matchmaking in the future of that experience in Warzone is crossplay, because ever since it was introduced, it's been a very controversial subject, right? We first got it in MW 2019, and the PC community really was, I would say, saved by crossplay, because if you look back at COD on PC prior, in Blackout, Black Ops 4, all the games before that, there was not a strong PC community in COD. It was there, but it was nothing compared to the console community, which was, I would say, like the 95% of the player base, right? Crossplay definitely increased the PC player base and that PC player count because honestly, players started to realize, hey, this PC experience, 120 frames, 140 frames, 240 frames, increased FOV. This is a pretty nice experience. It brought a lot of players over into that lesser known area of play. However, it then introduced the topic of, wow, there is a big skill gap and some big disadvantages when playing on console against PC players, because they do have a much more smooth experience. They have more options. They have some other features like the FOV slider, for instance, which we talked about several times this past week. So crossplay, while it is definitely the future of gaming, and you'll see pretty much all titles that have multiplayer, including it from here on out, does have some drawbacks in the form of the skill gap and whatnot. And that's why players initially wanted the option to disable crossplay if they chose to within Call of Duty. And the problem with it now is that it's there, it exists. There's a setting in the options menu to disable crossplay. However, if you try to disable crossplay on PC, it gives you a big warning message that you can't disable crossplay if you want to queue into, Battle Royale quads, Rebirth, this, that, and whatever else. Same deal goes for Xbox. You get the big warning message, hey, this mode has forced crossplay, or whatever the actual message is. On PlayStation, you get the warning message, but you can agree to it and then queue in with just PlayStation players. It takes you a long time to get into the match, and your connection, your ping in that game's probably not going to be ideal, because that crossplay disabled community on PlayStation is minuscule in comparison to any other community on Warzone right now. But the option exists, and realistically only for PlayStation, and it's kind of botched, or borked as some of the Warzone devs would say, where it's implemented there. So the option to disable crossplay is there, but it's more so a visual thing. It's not physically a viable option and something you can actually implement into your game. So that's issue number one. Issue number two in the whole matchmaking experience in Warzone is input based. Now, if you go way back prior to Modern Warfare 2019, something the devs specifically said was going to be a feature in the game was input-based matchmaking, because when they announced crossplay, one of the big worries was that, oh, controller players are going to have to play keyboard and mouse players, and these keyboard and mouse players are pretty good. They're going to get, stomped on. And so they were like, have no fear, input-based matchmaking is going to be a thing. Then the game comes out, and guess what's not there? Input-based matchmaking. It just does not exist. It simply is nowhere to be found. So that's issue number two. And when you sort of combine them, that means that if you're on, console with controller, you could be running into players on PC with controller that have that better FOV, the smoother frames. They're probably going to have an advantage to a certain extent if they're a good player. Not to say playing on PC automatically makes you better. There's definitely some bot tier players on PC. There's definitely some demons on console, but the general argument, I guess you could say, definitely exists. At the same time, you could be on console with controller and run into an absolute beast on PC with keyboard and mouse who have the ability to instantly drop shot. Their flicking could be really good. There are concerns there that are definitely valid. It does seem like, though, however, moving into the future, these concerns could be combated, because during this meeting that we had with some of these higher ups from Call of Duty, there was a big discussion when it comes to aim assist and keyboard and mouse versus controller, and it grew to one of the questions being answered of, well, what about having matchmaking options so you could choose to only play with other keyboard and mouse players so that you didn't have to worry about being destroyed by aim assist up close, or you could choose to only play with other controller players so that you didn't have to worry about the flicks, the instant drop shotting, and all of that stuff. And that was actually met with the response of, well, that's actually something we're going to be looking into, which gives a lot of hope for that in the future, the ability to actually input-based matchmaking into the game and implement that into the titles. We're not sure on the timetable for that. It could be in current Warzone. If I had to guess, it would probably be a thing for COD 2022, Modern Warfare 2, then also Warzone 2. But at the same time, could very well happen for this. We're just going to have to wait and see for that. But that was the first big response there when it comes to, matchmaking experience. Input-based matchmaking would definitely be a very convenient thing to have for all parties. Whether you're on PC or if you're on console, you could definitely have that choice, which is nice. That also brought forth a discussion of a little bit of crossplay. This was not nearly as detailed in terms of the discussion, but it was another thing that they were looking into, adjusting more. And something else I want to factor into this whole conversation is the Microsoft acquisition. When the time comes and Microsoft is in charge of Activision and in charge of Call of Duty, I'd be very surprised if the disable crossplay feature was still something that was only truly available on PlayStation. That would be something that would be very strange to see. So I think that's sort of the last resort saving grace, if you will. At the latest, once Microsoft takes over, I would expect disabling crossplay to be a fully functioning feature. Ideally, before that, though, alongside the addition of input-based matchmaking, we see the option to fully disable crossplay, because that, while we're still in the midst of discussing the whole console FOV issue, which is probably going to happen with Warzone 2, and for the foreseeable future here in current Warzone looks very unlikely, that does sort of help out with that conversation of, well, then we shouldn't be forced to play against PC players who have 120 FOV if we're going to be forced to play on 80, whether you're on the old gen consoles or current gen, which is currently capable of having, an advanced FOV slider. So matchmaking, the general experience here has a lot of work to be done. It could be drastically improved with the implementations of input-based matchmaking with a full-on cross-play turning on and off feature, right? And for what it's worth, it does look like both of those are going to evolve in the future, which definitely I think should be seen as good news. And wasn't something that I feel like was really talked about much when the day came and we were allowed to reveal all the information that we learned from these calls. So good news in my opinion. The future does look better for that, general matchmaking experience. That said, skill-based matchmaking, engagement optimized matchmaking, whatever you want to call it, that probably is not going anywhere anytime soon. They did say they are looking to implement a ranked mode at some point too. That should help a little bit, I'd hope, but they make too much money off of engagement optimization based matchmaking, so that I don't think will change. But simply having some options, I feel like would drastically improve quality of gameplay for all players. So definitely some solid positive news stemming from that. That all being said, though, that's going to wrap things up for today. If you enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, every day I got you covered with all things going on in COD, between news, updates, loadouts, tips. You'll find it all right here. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. As always, if you want to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code WHosImmortal for a spicy discount on all Scuff, G Fuel, Gamer Advantage, and Control Freak products. The links for all those can be found down in the description below. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.